It's not even hard.
Built by Dreamfinders Homes. Is presented by Underwood Jewelers and American Window Products on 1010
Chris
XL.
Kirk?
That was me.
Now
I
your
couldn't say Chris
hosts,
Kirk
Lauren
until later.
Brooks.
Donna Murphy and Blythe Brumley.
Good evening, ladies.
Welcome back.
Thank you. I had an absolute blast, but I am so happy to be back.
You look refreshed and tan.
I am refreshed. I'm super excited about the tan, just like everybody in February. If you get to actually get some sun, or at least if you want some sun. Yeah, it was a great trip, and we'll talk a little vacations a little later in the show. But first, let's start with some Jaguars. What should Jaguar fans be thinking about, or worried about, or watching for right now, or all of the above?
I kind of think it's the same old since the AFC Championship game. What are they going to do about the quarterback position, and what are they going to do in free agency, if anything at all? Obviously, Allen Robinson is at the top of that list, but outside of that, I kind of think Jaguar fans maybe should have a little bit of a break.
Maybe watching what other teams are doing, who they're not signing, so who is available for free agency.
Sure.
That's always fun to see. I like watching to see who leaves nicely. You know, it's all social media now, so it's either like peace out, on to my next home, or thank you so much. Right, thank you so much, fans. I had enjoyed it here, and so that's always fun to see. Oh, you're angry, so you're gonna go anywhere. You know,
It is crazy how fast it goes from Doug Martin being a fantasy football giant to now being released from the Bucs. It happens in just a few years.
Right, life comes at you fast.
I know, and especially for a guy like I just mentioned in the update, tight end Michael Rivera, the Jaguars declined to pick up his option. He never got to play for this football team on the field. He got to do training camp, and then that was it. And now he's going to be a free agent and potentially will never play for the Jaguars.
Is that the one that they signed in free agency, or they drafted?
Signed in free agency.
See, that was the one that was a strange signing to me, because it was such a tight end heavy draft that why would you sign someone in free agency when you can acquire talent on the cheap during the draft?
Yeah, I think they thought they found like a hidden gem. But it was a little bit strange in that I think, if I remember correctly, he had only 10 touchdowns in his whole career. And I think he was there for 4 years. So it is one of those where it was like, well, why are you choosing him versus some other options out there? But for me, I think that's the thing to watch for in the draft is, are they going to use the 29th pick on a tight end? To me, you do.
You better not. What?
Oh,
on a tight end?
Absolutely,
really?
I'm going on a tight end. All the teams that were made it far in the postseason outside of the Jaguars had great pass-catching tight ends. So
I'm
going tight end.
3 to 5 teams, I would say, have a tight end that's even worth mentioning. And even I would go as far as to say, you know, outside of Gronk and really Jimmy Graham, or maybe even Tyler Eifert, it's not the tight end position is overrated to me. Unless you have that elite level talent, and there's only a couple of those guys in the league.
Zach Ertz for the Eagles in the Super Bowl certainly made that diving catch that was not controversial for the refs, but ended up getting called a touchdown. Kyle Rudolph for the Vikings was fantastic. Obviously, you mentioned Gronkowski. I think there are some guys out there that you put them on this football team and they drastically change the offense. Okay, so things for me I'll be watching. Next Wednesday, 10 a.m., we will have a little head coach speak as Doug Marrone meets the media at the Combine, followed by Dave Caldwell around 12:15. So those are things that I'll have, or I have on my calendar. I can't wait to hear what they say. They may give us nothing that exciting, but at least we get to hear from them and see kind of what's going on. And if nothing's happened with Allen Robinson at that point, I'm sure that they'll be asked about him. New uniforms. Did y'all get into that last week?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got into all that last week. That won't be announced until April, though. So I think that's probably the most exciting thing to happen in the offseason outside of potentially signing Kirk Cousins.
Do you care what the helmet looks like moving forward?
Just not an ugly one.
Right.
And this current one was an ugly one too, right?
I really liked it when it first came out, but I think it's just one of those helmets that it's almost best reserved, that the style of it is almost best reserved as like a special occasion helmet, like almost like the Color Rush jerseys. Save it for like a once a year type thing, and then I probably really like it, but seeing it all the time, it looks off.
I always hated it. I always felt like if they were going to go two-tone, at least go with the same finished two-tone.
Yeah.
Go with either the matte black and the, I guess you can't really do matte gold, but matte teal maybe. But don't do the matte black and then the shiny gold. I just felt like it just, at all times, looked like they couldn't make up their minds when the time came.
Well, it was, I remember hearing about the design concept because it was the first time that Nike had designed new uniforms, and this was their first little pet project. And they talked about how they, they when they envisioned the helmets, they envisioned, a jaguar sneaking through the dark and then creeping out to attack its prey. So that's why they went with a two-tone helmet.
Yeah, I never liked it.
Yes, I don't like it anymore.
I'm glad it's changing, and it'll be really interesting to see. Like you said, that comes out in April. Another thing certainly to watch for is whether or not Blake Bortles can pass the physical at the time, which after that wrist surgery, you would expect him to be able to, but that's one thing that I worry about, because if he can't pass the physical, they're going to have to pay him $19 million.
Yikes.
I mean, I'm not really, it doesn't bother, it's not that it doesn't bother me, it's not one thing I'm looking at, because I'm more interested in who they're going to sign at quarterback other than him. And I know that's not your priority.
Sign or draft,
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Both. Right.
And
So, that to me is more what I would look for.
Those are certainly options. I don't get the feeling they're going to do both.
I would hope so.
That'd
be awesome.
But
if they
that's
did.
obviously if he's not on the roster.
Right.
If he's on the roster, I don't think they'll do both.
In my perfect scenario, we sign Kirk Cousins, let Blake go test free agency, and draft Lamar Jackson. That's my perfect free agency.
So you
mean the wide receiver?
No, he is not a wide receiver.
But see, I would not like that plan. The Kirk Cousins is one thing, but then your backup has a completely different style than your quarterback. I've always felt like if you're going to get a running quarterback, have him back up a guy whose style is similar to that. I don't want the style to completely change if something were to happen to
Well,
Kirk
that's the
Cousins.
same thing we have right now with Chad Henne and Blake Bortles. Chad Henne is a statue at the quarterback position.
But Blake's not a run-first quarterback.
He's not a run-first quarterback, but he runs all the time. That's
He runs
that's probably
some,
the
but-
best aspect of his game.
But Lamar certainly is a run-first. At least that's what he's been in college. We'll see if he changes.
Really his first year he was, but then Coach Petrino made him throw from the pocket. In fact, the entire offseason, before this last season, the entire offseason, he was only allowed to throw from the pocket. He wasn't allowed to run.
Yeah, and I guess my other knock on Lamar, and we've talked about that, is watching him at the Texler Bowl. I know we were both there.
Yeah, you can't judge him off that performance.
But that's the only time I got to see him in person. I know you've seen him against LSU. That's the only time. And so I don't want a quarterback who is going to throw 4 interceptions in his final college game. For me, that is a knock.
Bowl
that
game. And he's a Heisman Trophy
but
winner, arguably had better numbers
he's
than the
trying to
Heisman
get
Trophy
to the
winning
draft
season.
and get taken in the first round. So again, if Cousins is here, I don't want Lamar, but certainly you can draft another quarterback and try and lock that position up for years to come.
Well, that's what I would argue about Kirk Cousins, is that this team is built for now. So get Kirk Cousins, get that veteran leadership, get that veteran at the quarterback position, and then have time for Lamar to sit behind him and develop.
We talked about tight ends a minute ago. The Jaguars did exercise the 2018 option on 12-year tight end Marcedes Lewis. What's his legacy in Jacksonville?
He's a good blocker. I mean, there's nothing.
Sure.
There's
a good
nothing.
blocking
There's nothing bad about him. There's no. The personality is fine. There's nothing. You can't think of one really bad thing other than he's not really implemented unless he is a good blocker. And occasionally he catches a ball and you're surprised. But to me, he's just a blocking tight end.
He's had a couple clutch catches, especially this season, like game-winning clutch catches. But outside of that, he's just he's a veteran leader, and I think that's the big value that he brings to this team, because it is still largely a young team, especially on offense, and I think that he brings that veteran leadership.
I think he'll be remembered as a guy who played here his entire career. I think the MMA for sure factors in. I think a lot of people think of him as a guy who trains in the off-season in mixed martial arts and then is able to come into camp, even though he is 33, every year is able to come into camp in really good shape. I think the fact that he's fashionable, I know that that's not an on-the-field thing, but I do think that that's something that people will remember him for. He's a great kind of guy to interview. But yeah, I think Donna for sure, he won't live up to the first round selection because of the fact that there was one year he had 10 touchdowns, and then this past year 6 touchdowns, including the postseason. That's not enough for a first round tight end selection. He was picked 28th.
And didn't he have 4 touchdowns in one game? So that's kind of
like
when you
look at it, when he does retire, would you put him in the Pride?
No.
That's how you can rate him.
Yeah.
So if he's a definite no, so you go with So he's a blocking tight end.
Tyler's laughing across the room.
Well, that's why I say that's how you have to gauge the question. What's his
There are
legacy?
people who brought that up and call in and ask that question. So
Yeah, and the answer is no.
Have their head
longevity is
checked.
not really that great of an achievement.
No, it's not. You should be borderline Hall of Fame and to be put into the pride. Mark Brunell, I wish there was a way that they could take his name down. He doesn't deserve to be up there. Sorry.
To happen. But I think for Marcedes, I think there's still something left, though, to give. I think he's great in the locker room with the young guys, and he's someone who has seen so many different changes that when another set of guys comes in from a different team, he can kind of guide them in how this culture works. And I think there's something to be said for someone who does get to play his entire career in one franchise. I think that's a kind of a monumental achievement that we obviously don't see very often.
And I loved before the AFC, or it was before the AFC Championship game or after the AFC Championship game, where he released that article on the Players Tribune where he said this year felt really special. He's like, the next step for this team is to make it feel routine. So he's been that sort of leader in the locker room that I really dig, and I think that's more of his value now.
Well, and I think, too, there's a little bit of a knock against him in the sense that he played on teams that were terrible. And so any of his accomplishments during those years don't really get featured because everything was just so bad here. And so that's the other reason I'm really glad that he was, or they picked up the option for him. I would assume he was going to decide to stay, is because of the fact that he now gets to see success after seeing you work just as hard, even though the team is terrible.
And with a lot of guys and teams in the league, it's such a business first mentality that it's cool to see a guy who has close ties to LA and likes a bigger city vibe to stick with one squad instead of going out and trying to test another market.
Yeah, the other thing I'll remember is the fact that he has a daughter. For some reason, he always, he's super close to his daughter, and those are all things. I got to interview him. He was one of the very first players when we used to do that football interview with a player and then personal interview with a player on this show. And I got to talk to him in the locker room, and of course, because it was one of the first people I had talked to, I was so nervous. Like I was probably almost shaking, and he was so relaxed, and he was even like, "Hey, this is no big deal." I talk to people all the time. I'm like, "I know, but I'm going to be asking you like if you like vanilla or chocolate." I mean, this is a really hard hitting interview. Okay, all right. So that is Marcedes Lewis. He will return for next season. Everbank has been changed to TIA Bank Field. What does that mean to us? We'll tell you next. You're listening to Helmets and Heels, built by Dreamfinders Homes on 1010XL.
Hi there, I'm Steve.
Okay, we'll go get it right now. Thank you, sir. Oh, look at your pile of food.
Would you like that pile of food?
Yeah, I kind of would.
Fine by me.
Welcome in, YouTube. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to be live here until 9 p.m. on YouTube. You can, of course, watch the stream over again if you like, or start it from the beginning, whichever you like. Coming up, we're going to talk about a little bit more Jaguars. We're going to talk a little bit about Jalen Ramsey, Baker Mayfield, if yoga pants are acceptable to wear to the gym.
Did you read that story?
Yes. I think you can kind of tell where our opinion sort of lies in that regard. Then we're going to get into a little bit of the Louisville scandal. I'm not even going to... I'm going to save it. Welcome, Alex.
Some people are not happy with your Mark Brunell take.
It's true.
LOL, dumb broad, just said Brunell doesn't deserve to be in the pride.
He doesn't.
Fire her.
He doesn't. You should be a borderline Hall of Fame player or Hall of Fame in order to be in the pride.
Like, let's throw an MJD or Rasheed Mathis. I had no idea who Rasheed Mathis was until I moved here. Like that automatically disqualifies you. Like you should be a name brand person.
MJD, I could make a case for, kind of.
He had like 3 years where he was over 1,000 yards. So like if Leonard Fournette has 3 years where he's over 1,000 yards, like if he has 2 more seasons, we're gonna put him in the pride.
Right. Then you're gonna have to get like 6 layers of the pride,
right,
or 6 levels of the pride.
It needs to be for people who are like borderline Hall of Fame, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
There's a problem if you drink and drive.
Mm-hmm.
Next time
You didn't have to do that. Just cut the damn.
Tyler, were you supposed to
no, because I might not finish.
work the JU lacrosse game tonight?
No.
Oh, do you normally do those? Didn't you do one?
Yeah, I did a lot of them last year.
Last year, okay.
Yeah.
Station texters are mad about what I said about Mark Brunell.
I'm not surprised.
It's the truth.
There you go. Enjoy some onions and mushrooms with some rice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Would you like some shrimp sauce with that?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. So funny.
Mm-mm-mm.
I don't know about your story at the end. I don't know if that's something I want to talk about. The Serena story.
Mm.
Oh, that's fine.
I was reading though, I was like, no.
Yeah. I threw it on there just as an
Right,
extra
no, I know.
story.
I know.
We usually don't even end up getting to everything.
I was like,
So, but yeah. Well, I knew you would be able to at least provide perspective
Right.
on the event. But I've always felt like it's a really serious thing, and I feel like a lot of other people are just like, oh yeah, so-and-so's like having a baby. And I'm like, that's a big deal. Like when they go into the hospital, whether it's natural or C-section,
Right.
like that is a big deal. And people talk about epidurals like it's no big deal, and I'm like, that terrifies me too. Like,
no, that's
you
not a
can
big
be paralyzed from an epidural. Would you say it's not a big deal? I'm just saying the whole thing. But yeah, we don't have to talk
That's the
about
most important thing.
the epidural.
Getting that.
My cousin was voice texting me about both Lamar and Marcedes, but because she was voice texting, it came through Marcel D's. Oh, D's.
She knows Marcel?
Right? Except it's Marcel, Marseille, really, like the French
Right.
Marseille. Thank y'all.
That's funny.
Oh no.
That was fun working out all the kinks of the emails.
Oh my goodness. The only thing that I will say that's fantastic is I now can use my Outlook in here. You know, before you could I could only use my Outlook when I'm physically.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that, but I noticed I was still getting emails, and I was like, wait, can I actually use Outlook in the studio? That will make me so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Because I hate the remote access. Thank
Yeah.
you. Hate it.
Jaguars
Wow,
football
old school.
by women, for women, and men. Helmets and heels, built by Dreamfinders Homes.
Presented by Underwood Jewelers and American Window Products.
On 1010 XL, 92.5 FM.
I feel like I'm in high school again. My
This is
goodness.
a great song. Tyler, how did you think of this?
Blank's what I grew up with, so of course you gotta play some
Aw,
Blank.
Love it.
what he grew up with.
That is one thing I will say when
I was
you're.
about 8 years old when this came out. There you go.
Yeah,
About
never
18.
ask about that.
They're so funny.
One thing when you're traveling, you listen to a lot of music, and so it's fun to play songs you haven't listened to or wouldn't necessarily listen to on a regular basis. And Blink 182 certainly came up last week. It was fun to jam out to.
Nice.
All right, so TIAA Bank Field. That's your new home. Well, you're still here, Tyler, but that's your new show home with Jaguars Today, broadcasting from TIAA Bank Field. Do you believe that marketing dollars should be spent in naming rights for companies?
Well, it's money, so I agree with any company trying to be a part of the Jags. Yes, I am all for that.
But in general.
Do I like the name? Does it roll off your tongue? I don't think anybody will say yes.
No.
Can we call it Tia? Tia Bank?
Let's call it the bank.
You know.
Yeah,
that-
so the banks obviously caught on with Everbank,
Right.
and now people can just keep that. So is it better then that it doesn't have to change too much?
I mean,
I still catch myself calling it Alltel.
right, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter saying that as well. I don't know. It's just
I think it's if you're going to put your money into sports naming rights, it's better money spent on an actual stadium deal than like a bowl game.
right.
A bowl game feels like a huge waste of money just because of the limited amount of time that you get the brand awareness from it. I've never heard of Everbank until they agreed to sponsor the Jags or agreed to get the naming rights on the stadium.
I agree with you, because not only do they get this, but anything that's associated with the home of the Jaguars, now that the Florida Gator game and the Gator Bowl, when it comes to everything, will just,
because it's almost like, well, why should Daly's Place sponsor the amphitheater?
Right.
That's right next to it. Why should Dreamfinders sponsor the practice field? You could sort of, throw that, I guess, that term out there. It's just brand awareness. That's all it is.
Yeah, I don't feel like the naming rights has ever made me want to purchase something or has ever influenced my consumer decision. And that's where I wonder, from the marketing perspective, is it better to go in a different direction to reach brand awareness? Is for instance, sponsoring the social media snapshots that show up on the video boards during a Jaguars game, is that a better use, because then people are constantly looking at that versus the actual stadium name?
No, because I couldn't even tell you who sponsors the social media aspect of it. I couldn't tell you who put in any other sponsors within the stadium. I couldn't tell you, unless like the U.S. Assure Club area and then Everbank. And maybe like the State Farm area, back when it was the State Farm zone.
And FanDuelville.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of those come in handy.
But it does make you aware. Like, for instance, when you mentioned Dreamfinders, and then when they came on board with our show, and ever since we've been to all their places, we built a house before I knew of Dreamfinders, and I wish I would have known of Dreamfinders, because I am amazed every time we go. And not that I don't like my house now, but
sure,
boy, it would have been so much better.
Absolutely. Well, and that's a good point, that Blythe, you don't even know who does the social media snapshot versus, you learned about Everbank because of the naming rights. I've always felt like it was just something that you have extra money and you're just kind of throwing it at it. It's about a $43 million 10-year deal for the naming rights to Everbank Field, which, if you were a guest, were to calculate how many times Everbank is used for that 10-year span and then that $43 million, it probably does come out to a very minimal time or cost per usage, basically, like kind of like a cost per click in the digital world. So maybe I'm wrong in my thinking that it's such a waste of money, but I could be different. I know Chad mentioned that he is a member now of Regions Bank because they sponsor the SEC, and that's what led him to that banking decision when he moved south. So it actually does work, I guess, for some people. I hate change when it comes to stuff like this. Like, it just takes so long to finally get used to the way that it is. Like, I remembered hating Everbank when it first came out. Yeah. And so when I first read this, it was like, oh no, here we go again. And I feel like it almost makes your stadium seem less important when the name changes a lot, right? Like, Wrigley never changes. And so I've always wanted, just pick one name and let it be. Like, Tax Slayer Bowl, it is way easier to just say Gator Bowl, because that's what it was forever.
I don't know. I think unless you're in a historic franchise like Lambeau Field or Wrigley or Fenway, you're never gonna get that level. Jacksonville's not gonna get to that level, just because those teams have been around for decades and decades, and it was almost a sore eye on the franchise, because it was a couple years that we didn't have a sponsor on the stadium, and that was used by the national media to say that nobody's interested in even buying the stadium rights to.
Yeah, Jacksonville Municipal does not roll off the tongue either.
That's why it's great. It's great that a company wanted to come in and come on board, and now we get introduced to this company.
And obviously TIA acquired Everbank, and that's why it's shifting over. I just didn't realize that it was starting so soon. Like, our emails now with our schedule of where Jaguars today is say TIA Bank Field, and I'm like, wait a minute, we just made the switch.
They paid all that money. They want to start it now.
Looking ahead to the draft, Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield is not going to attend. Is that the smartest move for him? I say yes, because I think he'd be sitting there, and if he fell at all past where they project him to go, then they would be talking about all of the antics instead of all of his attributes at quarterback.
I think that it's almost like a dog and pony show when going to the draft. If you're not going to be if you don't know that you're going to be a top 5 pick, I think you should be surrounded by your loved ones. I don't even think you even go to New York and even make that attempt to go up there, because then it's almost the camera's on you the whole time. They're waiting for you to be drafted. They're waiting for that agony. They're waiting for that celebration moment. And if it doesn't come, like with Johnny Manziel when he slipped all the way down, then it's almost like a cruel, like you're watching a train wreck, and it just I don't know, I sort of just feel bad about it.
It's like watching The Bachelor when they don't give the girl the rose. It's that kind of a disaster, right?
I never watched The Bachelor, so I don't know.
Donna, what do you think? You have certain thoughts about Baker Mayfield.
I don't like that players don't attend the draft. You have finally been gifted this privilege to be able to enter the NFL, enter this league that not many people get to do. And you're going to thumb your nose at them before you even enter. I look at it as that. It's completely disrespectful.
But what if he's not taken in the first round and then he just sits there?
He's the Heisman Trophy winner. He should be there. I don't like that. It comes across as exactly who I think he is. Just a flat out, scumbag of a human being. I just don't like him. I don't like it when this happened last year. I don't like it when people decide to not do this. You have earned this privilege. It is a privilege to be in the league.
But is it not a privilege to make your own decision, to be surrounded by people that you love instead of people that are trying to find
you bring them with you? How many times do we see these with all their families there?
But what if they don't? I personally would want to be surrounded by every single person that helped me along this journey. I didn't, a lot of these athletes didn't start playing football in high school. They've been playing their entire lives.
So you wouldn't go to the draft?
No.
Why?
If I was a top 5 pick, guaranteed, a top 5 prospect, yes, I would go.
If a top 5 pick, nobody would be at the draft.
Come
on, that would be 5 people.
They're not getting paid for any of this. The NFL is using their image in order to exploit them. They just had, probably 3 to 4 years of getting exploited by the NCAA.
But this is your dream.
Right.
This is what you have worked for.
And your whole family has worked with you. So why not celebrate with your family instead of, being able to bring, one person to New York?
They can all be there. It's
can
not
they?
just yes.
I think they have. I don't know for sure, but it looks like through the TV setup that they get kind of a table, and so at
you
most
have
like
whole,
8 people.
Does the NFL pay for all of those people to fly there? Do they pay for their hotel?
That's a good
Do they
question.
pay for
I don't
their
know
travel?
what
The NFL doesn't pay anything
because they haven't gotten paid yet, and a lot of these kids, this is their way out. And why?
I don't like it. It's extremely selfish, and I don't.
See,
the only time I agreed with it was, I forgot who it was, either last year or 2 years. The grandmother, I think, was sick and couldn't make the trip, and that to me,
I'm Mariota, like, I think.
Right?
I think it was Mariota. He stayed in Hawaii because that was at draft that Winston went first and Mariota went second, and Jameis stayed home with his family too.
Right, something like that. I understand. You have family issues or something. This is
they're going to focus. If he doesn't go, where he's projected, they're just going to focus on everything negative, and that's where. If I'm Baker Mayfield, I do understand it. If I'm Lamar
that means
Jackson,
you're scared. If you can't handle that, how are you going to handle the league?
But
I don't know.
If you cannot handle having a camera on you.
Choosing not to put yourself in that situation versus being afraid of it. I think you're just saying, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and avoid all of this, and now they're not going to talk about all the things that I did wrong. That's where I think he specifically is coming from. Like a Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen who feel pretty confident that they're going to go high, and they don't have anything for them to discuss other than, well, Rosen does a little bit, but for Sam Darnold, they don't have anything for him to discuss other than his size, his stature, his accuracy. There's no off-the-field issues. So that's the part where, for me, Baker Mayfield, I feel like people will less remember those antics once he enters the draft, if it's not constantly shown on television.
And when we say antics, we're talking about the crotch grab and then the planting the flag in the middle of the field, right?
Right.
There's nothing else that Baker has done. So a couple of little showmanships on the field, and that's it. He's not a bad dude, and I hate this comparison that people are comparing him to Johnny Manziel. He's incredibly more talented than Johnny Manziel and appears to have his head on his shoulders outside of showboating a little bit.
Well, yeah, I don't like the comparison either, because one is, he can't handle a drink or a pill.
But we didn't know that at the time that Manziel was fighting. I think it was more because of just
he was very immature.
And you could tell he was immature with the whole money signs on the field.
And there was a lot of rumors around Texas A&M that he was a party boy, a rich kid that was used to getting everything that he wanted, and that was it. That story didn't necessarily come out in the draft, though.
Right. And, I mean, the thing, too, is we forget sometimes that these guys get interviewed a ton. Mm-hmm. So you can tell, I think, if someone's extraordinarily entitled pretty quickly by the way that they talk to you, by the way that they answer questions, by the way they talk about how they grew up, all that stuff. I think you can get an idea of someone who's willing to put everything on the line for this chance, and then the guys like Johnny Manziel, and I don't know that there are a lot of guys like him, but maybe like I'll throw in a Justin Blackmon who wasn't willing to give up everything in order to be successful in football. And you know what? Everybody makes their own decisions, but that's where I think you do see guys fall because of that. And I'm sure if there's one person that I always think of when it comes to the draft who wishes they weren't there is Laramie Tunsil.
Right.
And that's an example, not that he had any idea that was going to happen.
Right. But he
that's
at
when
least,
it's like, I understand now watching that story, like, I just am going to be at home.
Yeah, but he at least was there. Like, because it came out earlier in the day, right?
I think it came out like
hours
10
before
minutes.
the draft.
Right.
Oh, I thought it was even
so
closer
he could
to that.
have he could have been like, you know what, I'm not showing up. I'm going to stay in my hotel room.
And that's another thing too. Is it's the most stressful day of their life. Would you want a camera on you the whole time? I wouldn't.
Seriously, if you can't handle that day, you are not going to handle the
But
week.
it's not just that day. It's your entire career. It's your entire life that you've spent, 18 plus years probably building towards. And to not have a camera in your face on that day, I think is probably more beneficial to your mental health than anything.
I think that's ridiculous. Because if you go out there and you crap the bed on the field and get booed, and you can't handle being shown on the screen, waiting for your name to be called.
That's
the same thing. That's not being able to handle the pressure.
I think handling the pressure in a game is completely different from a camera on you for 20 plus hours, waiting for you to have your career decided for the next 4 or 5 years.
This is what Baker Mayfield said when he was asked about not attending the draft.
The draft would be, a good experience, something that I would never forget, but there's so many people, like I said, that helped me along the way that I want to celebrate this with, because it's not just about me. Yeah, one name gets called, but I've had coaches, teammates, my family that have all been there for me through the ups and downs that I want to help celebrate that with. Well,
100%
How did he start that? Did he say?
He said it would be something great.
It would be?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it's gotta be.
Because
so are you expecting it to not be a good experience?
I think like me, if he's anything like me, my family, I have 100 people in my family. There's no way they're all going to travel with me to a significant event like that. I would much rather be surrounded by people that I love versus people that are trying to get a story out of me.
Well, and I think the other thing too is it's just so awkward. The waiting, you have nowhere to go and you have nothing to do. And so when you're sitting there and that camera's on you, you just have to look like it's not awkward, and that's virtually impossible to me. I mean, do you ever remember those kids, whether it was you or another kid who was always picked last for something? You would never want the camera on them. Yeah, the kids who get picked first, they would love that part of it. But when you're just sitting there waiting for someone to pick you and it doesn't happen, that that kind of breaks your heart. But you can't.
But on the flip side of that, I would love to watch the NBA All-Star Draft, because that's exactly what they did, is they picked.
Right.
Well, so here's the example then. If you're an actor or an actress, are you not going to go to the Oscars because there's no way in hell you're going to win? And you don't want to be shown on camera going, oh, I'm so happy they won.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you show up.
But you're going there to get an award.
Your face out there.
No, know you're not going to win.
How do you know?
Because you're up against Meryl Streep, say for instance, and there's no way in hell you're going to win.
The more your face is out there in that business, to me, the better off you are for your fame. So I think you want a camera on you when you are all dolled up.
And it's not one and done. Like you can go to several award shows, ideally, over the course of your career. And they're not, sitting in a tiny room for hours and hours, over a 3-day weekend waiting to be selected.
And your face is really only shown at the Oscars. I don't watch it that often, but it's only shown kind of quickly. They show that clip and then they show the person and then they really flick to the winner, and so then you see the winner and they may pan to the losers really quickly, but it's not like it is locked on you for the next 2 hours. That's the one thing. And then it's not like they're in the background like, yeah, that one scene that she did, man, she really stunk, and I can't believe that anyone else would take her in another movie.
Dan Patrick, when the sports Emmys come around, he's always nominated, but he never goes because he said he went 1 year because Bob Costas always wins. So he's like, I don't even want to go because Costas is going to win.
That's so petty. Go.
No, do not speak ill will of Dan Patrick.
Oh, that's petty. Not showing up.
All right, when we come back, we are going to get into a little bit more of Kirk Cousins and vacations. That's all next. You're listening to Helmets and Heels, built by Dream Finders Homes on 1010XL. A hidden gem at the beaches, the preserve at Ponte Vedra Lakes is a must-see. This is Lauren Brooks for Dreamfinders Homes. Do not make a home buying decision without visiting this community. Located far enough off the beaten path for your privacy, but still close to dining and shopping. Trust me, you will want to see the preserve at Ponte Vedra Lakes. Starting in the mid-400s, you'll choose from 6 new coastal floor plans. Affordable coastal living only from Dreamfinders Homes. Visit the preserve at Ponte Vedra Lakes today.
Something wrong with the phones?
Huh?
Something wrong with the phones? Something wrong?
No, some little kid keeps calling. And like I'll say like, hello, and like after the third time he's like, hello.
Aww.
And I keep saying, and then he hangs up. And he's called like 10 times.
I keep saying on Tuesday.
I hope it's not mine.
That would be really funny.
Hey, it's JT!
Is mommy there?
That would be funny.
Yeah, today was the worst day for us to have the whole computer stuff.
I know.
And Jeremy's so sweet and he did a good job. But it was just like, I have so much to do and I've been gone.
Right.
And
We're just on the AM, right?
oh, FM.
FM?
I keep
Just
saying
on the
1010XL,
FM.
but we're actually on the FM.
If you have typo negative blood, please donate during this time of emergency need. Visit vitalsouth.org.
How's your mushrooms and onions?
Pretty good. The last bite was a little too much onion though. It was like 2 pieces of little rice and 5 onions.
I just laughed because I said no mushrooms. She goes, do you want onions too? I go, no onions either. Okay, so just peas, carrots, and broccoli. Yep. I don't know how that got wrong. But thanks. You got a meal out of it.
Thank you.
Oh gosh.
We're gonna go with this style for the rest of the night, I think.
So Davis thinks that Mayfield will go to the Jets.
Not if they're gonna.
I think they're
win
gonna
the
sign
Kirk
Cousins, don't you?
sweepstakes.
Does
If I'm
Cousins
him-
have? He can pick where he wants to go, right?
As long as they don't franchise tag him, which
That
they're
would be
obviously
so
not gonna
mean.
do, or obviously did not do.
That would just be cruel. You know?
It really wouldn't, in a sense, because I mean, he's already made what, 60 million.
I know, right?
That's
So
why
he'd
I
make
think he
another
wants to go
30.
somewhere to win.
Yeah, he doesn't need the money. I mean, there's times that I stop and think about,
How much I
how mind-boggling. We talk about it as if it's like, commonplace, but just how mind-boggling it is that, like, they are set for life in one contract. That's it. Done. Over.
What's sad is that
It's not
a
guaranteed
lot-
money though. Well, unless you get guaranteed money.
Right. What's sad is that a lot don't keep care of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because with more money comes more problems.
More family out of it.
When I was an executive assistant, my boss was a millionaire, and black Amex car, that huge ass Hummer with these big ass rims on it, like had everything. His property taxes and insurance were thousands and thousands of dollars every month. Probably $25K per property and property taxes every single year. And because he had a house, one of his houses that was right on the ocean, he had to get regular home insurance, and he had to get flood insurance, and then he had to get beach flood insurance, and then he had to get wind insurance, and then he had to get hurricane wind insurance. It was all these additional things that would made it thousands and thousands of dollars, just more expensive, just a higher cost of living when you have more expensive things.
Well, and your tastes change, and then that's where I think it all unravels. Or you
Back
just
here in 20.
spend more.
Yeah, because
Okay,
I
thanks.
remember he had a stack of like $800, And he was like, I just got a little cash on me. I was like, $800 is not a little cash. And he just kind of looked at me like, oh, bless your heart.
Yeah.
Be like, can I have a raise?
Right.
Get inside the Gators with the Florida Gator Report. Brought to you by Darley's Plumbing, where quality counts on 1010XL.
You're listening to Helmets and Heels, built by Dreamfinders Homes
Presented by Underwood Jewelers and American Window Products.
on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Welcome back to Helmets and Heels, built by Dreamfinders Homes on 92.5 FM. Over on 1010 AM, you will hear JU Lacrosse going up against Detroit Mercy. I had to say JU Lacrosse in several of my updates today. Couldn't get through it. Yet right then it sounded just fine. Apparently it's only when the Sports Center music plays that I could not say JU Lacrosse. Maybe I was going too fast, which is entirely possible. All right. Kirk Cousins, no longer with the Redskins. Where shall he go? Outside of the Jaguars. I'm taking the Jaguars off. You can't pick that team because that's who obviously you're going to pick. So, Jaguars are not an option. Where would you go if you're Kirk Cousins?
I would go
He
Denver.
says he wants to win.
Denver.
You'd both go Denver.
They have cash for probably one more year, and then they're going to run into some contract issues after that. But Denver is a place that has historically won, even though I think John Elway is a little bit of an overrated GM. But that would be my second choice, if not the Jaguars.
Yeah, I would stay unless he has gone broke, which I don't think he has. Stay away from the Jets. Just don't go to that debacle.
And I feel like he wouldn't. I feel like that's why the Jets had to come out and say that, is because he's already said winning is more important to me.
Right.
And to me, it should be. I think we'll obviously learn once all this is done, March 14th, what he decides and if he really meant that. But if he does mean what he says, like basically I've already made all the money I will ever need in this lifetime and for generations to come. I want to win.
I mean, and he still will make a ton
absolutely.
of money.
Then he has to pick a team like the Jaguars, like the Broncos. And then the team that I think is under the radar would be the Vikings. The Vikings have enough money to pay him and to keep the defensive pieces that they have in place.
7 quarterbacks there.
I know that's
right, but they're not going
laughable.
to keep Case Keenum, Sam Bradford, and Teddy Bridgewater. They're not going to keep all of those. So if I'm the Vikings, I would love to have Kirk Cousins as my first option and then a backup like Case Keenum. I don't love Sam Bradford or Teddy Bridgewater.
Well, he's always injured.
But I'll keep Keenum as my backup because I know I already made it to almost the promised land with Keenum.
Right.
And with Cousins, I could go even farther. So I think the Vikings are a good landing spot. But like I said, we'll know. I mean,
Do they have the cash to spend, though?
they have enough. They may not have anywhere near the, just ridiculous money.
Plus, they
that
have
the
Dalvin
Jets,
Cook coming back.
I'd rather the Jets will pay Cousins the first year $60 million.
Oh, yeah, they'll pay him.
I mean, that's unfathomable to me to say that he's worth that. It's not like we're talking about paying Drew Brees $60 million.
Right.
Then I would say that's maybe not feasible so much, but understandable. This is just insane. But we shall see. Obviously, a lot of Jaguars fans hoping Cousins ends here. Cornerback Jalen Ramsey gave his mama a Land Rover for Valentine's Day.
That's such a great video.
Absolutely. If you could have Jalen buy you one thing worth $87,000, by the way, I just Googled Land Rover new price, and that's where I got $87,000. I had no idea how. I thought those things could maybe run like $70,000, but no, over 85. All right, one thing, if Jalen could buy it for you for $87,000, what are you having him buy you?
That's a down payment on a house.
Yeah.
But you can't have the money. That's what
Okay, he's gonna pay some of my bill for our house.
But then
Invested
that's still
in my
money.
business.
You can't have the money. He has to buy
There's
you
nothing
an
worth
actual
$87,000. It has to be multiple. It can't be one thing. I'm not gonna drive a $90,000 car. That's insane. That is absolutely insane.
I would.
No.
So you're going with the car.
No, I would absolutely say I'm not one to tell somebody else how to spend their money, but if you want to, you can invest it in my business and then
But that's taking the money. You can't have the money.
What if
No,
he
you're
sponsors?
investing it. I'm not taking it.
He sponsors her. That's
you have to buy a material. He has to buy you a material
something tangible.
thing. Yeah.
There's increasing rules to this.
Well,
Can I have that Titanic diamond? Can I have that
You
one?
can, absolutely.
Fine.
That
I'll
is
buy
a material
that.
thing.
Down payment on a house.
Nope, that's still taking the money. You can have a house for $87,000.
What about a night with, whoever you want? Like I could have a dinner with Tom Hanks.
Harrison Ford.
You can do that. Absolutely.
Circa 1985.
I was surprised Blythe didn't say like a makeup store or something.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah,
See?
A makeup
Sephora or
room.
something.
I really want a
Sephora.
getting ready room where it's like a room for all my friends to come over and we can get ready to go somewhere. And there's like hair stations and outfit racks and then like little makeup areas with the proper lighting and all that good stuff.
Okay.
All right. So there's your thing. Tyler, what about you?
Ooh, that's really tough. The experience one you said is pretty good because those things are really hard to put a dollar amount on.
Private island.
That would cost way more
than
than
like $1 million
$7,000.
somewhere. I don't know. That's
small
that's
one.
really tough. That's something I have to think about.
I would take a boat. Yeah, that's what I would take.
Boat.
I would take a boat that has a perfect trailer and perfect motors and a mechanic to go along with it.
And gas money.
That will always work perfectly. Yeah, that's the problem is then I would have to pay for the gas money. But still, I thought it was a very sweet thing.
Or you can
they
get
did
a
for his mom.
smaller boat and have him pay for all of the gas cans already there.
There you go. Tyler, you can get back to us with what you want. Oh, did you guys talk last week about Tyler's update on the diet? What did I miss on the TB12?
Yeah, he's been sick. So
we're still pushing it off a little bit.
Definitely
Okay.
sick, barely able to be here.
Yeah.
I haven't planned it a week yet, but it'll probably be in the summer.
Okay. Sounds
It's even worse.
We've ruled out, obviously, July 4th weekend. You can't do it over that.
No.
You got to do it
Absolutely
around
not.
where there's nothing going on.
That's
I'm going to do it over the summer? I'd rather get it over with now.
Well, it's not like Tyler has to try and get his beach bod,
No.
which is how I would have planned it.
Right.
No.
All right. Speaking of beach bods, I just got back from about a week in Puerto Rico. It was fantastic, but I absolutely hate traveling. I hate the airport. I hate because I know I'm about to get on an airplane. I don't hate the actual airport, but I hate flying. I hate it. I don't know when it started. I have massive anxiety when it comes to planes.
Just claustrophobic or?
Well, I'm claustrophobic, and I think I've figured out that I have a fear of heights, along with some sort of like motion sickness. So I think just the whole thing works against me.
Something.
It all bothers me. I cannot stand it. I got lucky. Both of the flights that we had, the person at the counter gave us the exit row, the emergency exit row. So both times sat, in the top or the front like 15 rows, which that part does help. The back of the plane is way worse for me because you have to wait for everybody to get off and everybody starts to stand up so fast and you can't really see when anyone's getting off
So
anymore.
you're definitely claustrophobic.
Oh, I'm definitely claustrophobic, absolutely. I can't stand this studio that we're in right now when our accountant's not here and the door's shut and I can't see the outside. Yeah. So I have a lot of issues with flying. And I don't understand how other people can just sleep. Like before takeoff, during takeoff. So it doesn't bother you at all.
The first thing I do when I get on a plane is either I'm going to work or I'm going to sleep. And I bring like the neck pillow. I always bring like a special like hoodie and sunglasses or a hat, and I just make it completely dark. I always get a window seat, always. It's non-negotiable. I won't pick that airline. I won't pick that flight if I can't get a window seat.
And why is that?
I just love to see outside. Like I love to see that view, especially if, a few of the flights that I've been on, like going to Vegas, you get to fly over the Grand Canyon and you can see that view from high up. There was another flight that I went on from Tampa to Jacksonville, and they were flying north and they had to circle around, so I got to see Everbank from up above. Even flying to Dallas, you get to fly over all the stadiums that are around downtown Dallas. I love the window seat. And I hate not having it.
And you can fall asleep like on command.
Like that. Even in a car, if I'm on a road trip for more than 15 minutes, like we won't even reach 95 and I'm like, I'm tired, I need to take a nap.
Wow. Even if, obviously, not if you're driving.
Yeah, well, I do live for the days of self-driving cars that I can just sleep the whole time.
Donna, what about you?
Oh, I love flying. I've been doing it all my life. I love it.
See,
I don't
so
sleep
jealous.
on it, but I will prefer to fly JetBlue any day.
Mm-hmm.
See, we flew JetBlue on the way there, and we get on the plane, and they tell us that there are some engine issues, some computer issues that are affecting the engines, so we have to deplane. And then we started, the process of, okay, your flight may board in the next 30 minutes. Okay, once it got close to that time, your flight may board in the next 30 minutes. Once it got close to that time, your flight may board in the next 30 minutes. So you can't go to like the bar, which is where I would have loved to go to try and ease some of the anxiety.
That's what I was going to ask if you take it.
But they didn't tell us that it was going to be a certain amount of time. And do I take anything? No. I don't want to be affected the rest of the time.
Especially if you're sitting in an emergency room.
But I always get like at least one glass of wine before the plane takes off, or a beer or something.
But this was like early in the morning.
But this was, our flight was at 8:45, so we left Jacksonville at 2:45 a.m. or woke up at 2:45 a.m. But anyway, then JetBlue, long story short, it was about a 5-hour delay, but without having to even complain, they gave us a credit that was more than our flight cost.
That's awesome.
So that part's cool, yeah. So at least the
JetBlue's
delay
awesome.
was worth that part of it. But the other people on the plane also bother me. Because there's some people who have the screaming kids, and like, no offense to screaming kids, I know the kids are not, in an area where they're comfortable. They're probably like me, like, what is going on? But the screaming kids, because of my anxiety, does not help me.
Did you bring headphones?
Yes, I have headphones. But those don't always help either, because if the pilot says anything, or if flight attendant says anything, I need to be able to hear what they're saying. I'm telling you, it's a real...
Poor Brian, man.
It's a real problem.
He had to deal with a lot.
Well, I don't voice all this because I think that's going to make it a lot worse.
Slip like a little sleeping pill in your drink the next time you don't fly anywhere.
He's totally fine with flying, so that does ease
Right.
my kind of issues, and he lets me like hold his hand and like squeeze him really tight during both takeoff and landing. I don't understand how people are just so comfortable with it all. Like, this thing is going 500 miles an hour, and then it's just gonna land on the ground.
Have you always flown? Did you ever fly when you were a kid?
I did, yeah. And I never had issues with it then. The only time I ever remember...
What did you watch or dream of?
Good question. I don't know.
Something had to
I think
happen.
I just stopped flying for a while. I didn't go anywhere. And so then it's all...
You're overthinking it or something.
Oh, I'm definitely overthinking
Don't you
it.
watch... Don't watch The Gray. If you ever seen the movie The Gray, don't watch The Gray.
I won't watch The Gray.
That's
Don't
awful.
worry. But I watched all the other planes take off, and I'm like, see how routine this is? Like, it's no big deal. My parents love to fly. They have no issues. And the other thing is, I don't mind when other people are like, hey, I'm flying to so-and-so. I'm like, oh, have a great flight. I don't worry about them. But yet, when I'm on the plane, I think, what if this is it? I'm never going to see the dog again.
What would have happened if the Jags went to the Super Bowl? You and I would have flown together, and I would have been like attacked by you, going, "I am freaking out."
You pick a different row. If you're traveling,
the last time we went to the Super Bowl, it was with Mike's show. I had Marlon over here, who all of a sudden developed motion sickness. All of a sudden, and started puking everywhere, and I just hopped out of the seat. I'm like, oh, hell no! I'm not sitting by this thing. This exorcist over here, bye.
I don't do that at least. So I have never physically gotten sick. It's just, I think if you were to hook up like the blood pressure thing on me and like test like my heart rate, you'd be like, how are you alive right now? And it doesn't end with the flying either. That's the other problem. It's also the car ride. Like you said, you just fall asleep in the car. No. Even if I'm not driving, I am staring at that road and looking all around as if I'm driving. I don't know how it's going to get better. I'm looking for advice here.
Yeah, I don't.
Do you actually enjoy vacations at all? Like,
that's
when she gets there.
That's the thing, right? And so
to and from is the problem.
Correct. To and from is an absolute long day. Like the 19 hours of traveling, and then yesterday's 12 hours of traveling. All of that is awful.
Can you sleep the night before?
Yes, no problem there. Although this time we only slept for like 4 hours, but still. Yeah, I have no issues with that. Once we get to vacation, then I'm good to go. And I feel like I'm
a muscle relaxer or something.
Maybe. But then they'll probably have to like drag me around.
That might be better than squeezing his hand
until
it falls off.
It's only takeoff and landing.
I would rather fly every day of my life than ever get on a train.
Okay, I don't get on trains
never
too often,
ever
but I'm
step
sure I would hate that
foot on a train.
See, I'm one of those weird people that when the flight gets turbulence, I'm like, oh, that's fun.
What?
Yeah, you're weird. Not even I do that.
Well, it feels like a ride.
Well,
nope.
So now that y'all know my issues, I was on a flight by myself, which that's by far the worst because I don't have anyone to talk to and be like, what if this is it?
I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to put my headphones in and ignore the world until I get to where I need to go.
I was on a flight and we had some turbulence, which is god-awful. And I hear the flight attendant say to someone, I was once on a flight where the plane got struck by lightning. And she's like, now that was scary. And I'm like, dear God, just like give me an injection.
Put your headphones
something
in, put your
right now.
headphones
Like I can't even imagine. I didn't know that was a possible problem. So now it's even worse. Now I cannot ever fly if there's a cloud in the sky.
The birds are the
What do you
worst
think about
too.
lightning?
If the birds
gosh.
make it into
Okay,
the
this
actual
is not
propellers,
This
then
is not
that's
okay.
bad.
All right, let's talk about the good parts of vacation next. I'm over talking about flying. It's behind me now. I made it safely to and from Puerto Rico. So let's move right along. You're listening to Helmets and Heels built by Dream Finders Homes on 92.5 FM.
Now, Studio Talk with Dan and
That's
Jimmy.
funny.
It is awful.
I'm so sorry. That's.
And I was so wound up yesterday. And then I got an email saying that we're probably not going to be able to live where we're living anymore at like 10 o'clock last night. And I was like,
Why?
Well, we have through our lease, which is good, but the owners of the building, of the condo building, are deciding to sell. And so if investors buy it and want to rent it out, then they could potentially let us stay. But at the same time, I don't know if they would try and raise the price without doing any of the work, and that would be silly. So now I gotta figure that out. And so I think it was like the leftover anxiety, then plus like worrying about that. It was like I just could not sleep last night.
Poor thing.
Oh, it's okay. I got to go on vacation. I am not complaining. And it was so
How was
good.
the power situation?
It was good. The place where we stayed did lose power like twice, but they had a generator, so power would go out and they would
Was there a storm?
well,
yeah, hurricane.
the Hurricane Maria had gone through and like
Oh.
that storm.
Isn't
like
it
back
still?
months
Oh,
ago.
Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah.
So
I'm like, how are you still affected? Oh,
we
that's
saw a lot
right.
of power lines down. Yeah, not where we live now. Although where we live now had to get a new roof, and I also think the building has a lot of water damage, so I would not want to live there.
Alex said Lauren is never coming to London Cave.
No.
9.5-hour flight.
Nope.
But see, I went to Hawaii when I was 23. I had no issues. I thought that flight was great, so I've definitely developed it.
And I wonder why.
Oh, I know why. I just didn't want to say it on air.
Oh, okay. Well, I feel bad.
Because my ex-husband was deathly afraid of flying and would not fly anywhere, and
See,
told me awful things about flying, like to the point where he had to fly to Las Vegas one time, and he got so scared to fly back that he rented a car, which his company was paying for the flight. Then of course we had to
Get
pay
the bill.
for the rental car from Las Vegas to Florida. Had to drive to multiple weddings that we went to. Where like my work would yell at me for taking extra time off because he wouldn't fly and all this stuff. And so the next time I got on a flight was last year when I went to El Salvador, and it had been years since I had flown, and now it's
That all
awful.
comes.
Yeah. And
Maybe
he told
you're
me
not.
like take
maybe
off.
you're
so
not
that-
really anxious of the flight. Maybe it's just bringing back horrible memories, and that's brings up anxiety.
I don't think so. I think the older I've gotten, the more motion bothers me. I don't like being in a car going 80 miles an hour. I don't like that. Makes my stomach feel weird. I like to go like under 70.
Well, and you
Do
didn't
you
have
have to
a
be
good
the driver? Because I know a lot of people with motion sickness, they want to drive. And
Yeah.
I'm like, have at it.
If I trust the person driving, then I'm okay. Like in Puerto Rico, one of Brian's good friends drove us everywhere. Never had an issue. I mean, I had issues with like
how it is,
how high it is, and how they drive, but never like him driving. And like Brian driving, my dad driving, and none of that. My mom, none of that bothers me.
Yeah, you couldn't get me on an Amtrak train. Seems
Why?
like every week there's an Amtrak crash.
Oh.
I'm like,
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
I wouldn't like that either.
Nope. I am
But I'm
happy
trying
not
to like
riding a train.
tell myself like flying is going to be something you enjoy someday, or at least not absolutely hate it. Like,
Well, and what
I just
you're-
want to be normal.
Right. Have you ever seen Bridesmaids?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Just take a muscle relaxer and just chase it with a drink. You'll be good.
Well, that's what I said to him yesterday. I was like, should I take something
give us a
before
little
flights?
kick.
And he was like, no. And I was like, yeah, you're right.
Well, and the important thing though is eventually, you know, when you have kids, you don't put that on them. Like my cousin will never fly because my aunt and uncle always told them how bad it was. Like you haven't. I flew by myself when I was little all the time.
Yeah.
Flew up to Rhode Island, go visit my
I
grandparents.
prefer to fly, and if I'm flying with friends, I don't want to sit next to them. If
'Cause you
I'm
wanna
gonna be,
sleep
I'm
or
going
going
to
to
be
work
on a
or
trip,
something,
and I'm gonna spend a lot of time with you. I'm gonna be sleeping probably in like on to Vegas. I flew out there with 3 girls, and they sat together, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna sit over here.
I love it. JetBlue, man. You just watch whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and like I have a friend who today posted pictures of them on the airplane in Orlando with her kids and her mom, all happy, smiling, and I'm like, how do you do that?
Am I bringing it back this one or no?
I have,
and what are we going
Fergie's
back with?
Anthem, of course.
Sorry, what, Taylor?
I have Fergie's Anthem.
I don't know if I want to put my
yeah.
earbuds in for this
one.
one.
Do I want to?
You want to do that?
We're gonna continue vacations. We don't have to do it right here. We can
Okay.
we can do Fergie here. So yeah, you can bring it back.
Wait, if we're doing vacations, you do it.
No, I said we can do vacations later.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go.
It is where the rubber hits the road. Tire Outlet and 1010XL track off-season activities.
Do it.
So
Carefully leave this away from
Yeah.
the off-season rolling at tireoutlet.com. Wholesale prices, premium service.
You're listening to Helmets and Heels, built by Dreamfinders Homes
Presented by Underwood Jewelers and American Window Products.
on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Welcome back into Helmets and Heels, built by Dreamfinders Homes. My name is Blythe Brumleaf, and I'm joined alongside Donna Murphy and Lauren Brooks. And if you paid attention to the NBA All-Star Game, or if you didn't, you likely heard about the awful rendition that Fergie had of the national anthem. I think we have some audio for that.
What's so proudly waving
Oh.
Okay.
at the
You tone that one
Yeah,
down?
that's enough. That's enough.
We get it.
It sounds like she's trying to do the national anthem the way that Billie Holiday would sing a jazz song.
I don't.
She's trying to throw so much into it and twist her voice that it's awful.
Yeah, you can hear that she is attempting the jazz, and
Yeah.
and I appreciate it. In no way do I think she should be ridiculed in thinking that she had any kind of disrespect towards the anthem. I didn't get that. It's just that she tried something and it did not work.
But
No.
wouldn't she have tried it and someone said, no, we need to back off this a little bit?
Like, don't they practice a few times before?
That means that you are surrounded by yes people and you need to change your crew.
The best part about watching it to me is how much she's enjoying it and how she thinks she looks great and it sounds great and her version is great. And I mean,
It's like how I sing in the shower.
Did you
And
watch-
everybody else is laughing, you know?
I still have NBA players watching and laughing.
Yeah, there's other players, like some of are making faces, some
Steph
are
Curry,
laughing.
Draymond Green
They're
were
like, this
notable
is
ones.
just the worst I've ever heard. And we talked about how Pink was sick.
Right.
And she may not have hit notes, but she didn't try to do too much.
Right.
And that's exactly what Fergie was doing, is almost, and I think it is borderline disrespectful in a sense that you're trying to make it more about you than about the national anthem. That's what I read from that.
And I hate it when people add on like the extra uhs into every part of it. It's like,
Correct.
just sing it like it normally should be, because if you do it as bad as Fergie did on Sunday night, then you have somebody like Roseanne Barr coming out and saying that it was worse than her national anthem rendition from years back. It's just, ugh.
I don't think I ever heard. That's right.
At least she didn't drag it out.
She
though.
just can't sing.
So
Therefore, she shouldn't have, been asked to sing.
That's
She should
another
have chosen to sing. Okay.
I'm sorry, but
No, Fergie's is not worse than that, actually.
No, and this is another
That's
instance
terrible.
where somebody likely watched this being practiced several times, and they said, okay, they gave it a stamp of approval. So it's not just, Fergie or Roseanne Barr. There was a team of approvals that went through that process. It's a sort of an embarrassing moment, I think, for Fergie, but not career-ending.
No, and I think the bad part is her voice is fantastic, and
Yeah.
you could hear that at certain times, that if she had just backed off a
jazz,
lot, not a
don't
little,
do the
but a
jazz.
lot, right, then I think it would have been
yeah.
an awesome performance that people would be talking about for a long time. And I feel like she's kind of off. I'm not the biggest